Life is meant to be lived from the inside out, where your inner world shapes your outer reality. I'm your host, Armand Martin, and this is The Inner Realms, Lifting the Veil. Welcome to Episode 3, Physical Life Part 1, Creating Your Own Reality, the Technical Framework. Before we dive into this stage of the soul's journey, the one you're living right now, a reminder, you are the ultimate authority of your own experience. The teachings I'm sharing from Seth, Michael Newton, and Dolores Cannon are the maps, not the territory itself. Take what resonates deeply, what rings true in your own inner knowing, and leave the rest. In the previous episode, we spoke about the pre-incarnation planning stage. You did this in what Michael Newton and Dolores Cannon refer to as the spirit world. There was no veil. You had perfect clarity and self-honesty. However, at birth, a veil of forgetting descends. All the careful pre-birth planning, your soul contracts, chosen lessons, selected challenges becomes hidden from conscious awareness. Why is this forgetting essential? You can't authentically grow and learn if you remember the answers. In other words, forgetting who you really are and what you're here to learn makes choices a genuine experience, which in turn speeds up spiritual growth or contributes to the expansion of consciousness. But the veil is not impenetrable, and in recent decades, entities from other dimensions or densities, either through channeling or deep hypnotic regression, are providing information which lie behind that veil. This is what this podcast is about. Gleaned from the above-mentioned sources is the core message that you are a creator or a co-creator of your own reality. The physical life, your current incarnation, is really the heart of the podcast, and it will take a couple of episodes to cover. Each is shorter to allow integration of these concepts. This episode is the what of reality creation, how we create our outer world. And it's Seth's framework that gives us the most precise technical map of exactly how that creation works, from the inside out. So let's start with Seth, as channeled by Jane Roberts. Seth describes a precise sequence through which we continuously create our experience, starting with our beliefs, which generate thoughts, and from which emotions are evoked, and which results in physical reality outwardly manifested. And here are examples from the Seth material. Here's a belief. Life is difficult, attracts difficult circumstances. A contrary belief, I am supported. Synchronicities and opportunities appear. So your beliefs about reality are crucial. They form the invisible architecture. These aren't just opinions you hold, they're core assumptions about how reality works, what's possible, who you are, what you deserve. Many of these beliefs operate beneath conscious awareness. You inherited some from family and culture, others formed from early experiences. Regardless of their origin, they function as selective filters, determining which thoughts seem true and which experiences you magnetize toward yourself. Thoughts flow from those beliefs. They arise naturally from your belief structure. If you hold the belief that life is difficult, you'll find yourself thinking thoughts that align with and reinforce that framework. This is too hard. Nothing ever works out. I can't get a break. These aren't random mental events. They're the logical expression of the underlying belief system at work. Emotions aren't merely reactions to your thoughts. They're the actual energy that powers manifestation. In other words, emotions are the bridge between the inner world and outer reality. Strong emotion, whether positive or negative, accelerates the materialization, the manifestation process. This is why you can think about something casually without it manifesting. But when you think about it with intense feeling, fear, desire, joy, anger, it tends to materialize more quickly. And physical reality materializes as the end result. The physical world you experience is the final product of this sequence. The manifestation of your beliefs, thoughts, and emotions into tangible form. What you see out there is actually a mirror of what's happening in here. You are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are their creator. So this is Seth's technical framework. This is the science, if you will, behind manifestation as described by Seth in the books Seth Speaks, and especially in the book The Nature of Personal Reality. He begins by what he calls the most important understanding. Consciousness is not a product of matter. Matter is a product of consciousness. This isn't mysticism avoiding science. It's Seth claiming that mainstream science has the causation arrow backwards. Physical reality doesn't generate awareness as an emergent property. Rather, it is fundamental and creative, and it projects matter into existence as a deliberate construction. Seth describes the basic building blocks of reality as consciousness units, sometimes called electromagnetic energy units. So properties of consciousness units, we're getting into some pretty wild material at this point. So CUs, or consciousness units, exist before and beneath the physical level. They're more fundamental than atoms, electrons, and quarks. CUs respond directly to intent, expectation, and emotion. They are psychically charged. So here it is. CUs can transform into matter, energy, or remain as pure consciousness depending on the directives they receive. So faster than light. CUs operate outside conventional space-time constraints. Space-time is is our reality here on Earth. So CUs move faster than light because they exist in a framework where physical laws don't yet apply. Intelligence. Each CU possesses rudimentary awareness. They're not mechanical. They're proto-conscious. In other words, we are referring to properties that are inherent in all matter. These units are the building blocks of consciousness. Now we will attempt to describe the manifestation mechanism step by step. Stage 1. The inner reality framework. We have spoken of your consciousness, your being, as existing in multiple dimensions with simultaneous existences across time and space. In other words, in this incarnation, you only have a portion of your whole consciousness or energy. And by the way, Michael Newton speaks of this in his books. So other portions of yourself are in other dimensions, living other experiences simultaneously. Your whole self is what he refers to as the oversoul. Physical focus, your waking awareness, experiences linear time. Experiences seem to occur as events that follow one after another. Inner reality. This is a vast psychological environment where beliefs, thoughts, and emotions have immediate, tangible results. Deeper self. Your greater identity, your oversoul, or you could call it your higher self, coordinates between the various dimensions you simultaneously exist in. Stage 2. The electromagnetic patterning. Every thought and emotion generates specific electromagnetic patterns. These aren't metaphorical. Seth insists they're literally electromagnetic. though operating at frequencies we haven't yet learned to measure. Different thoughts create different electromagnetic signatures. Emotions intensify these patterns, increasing their amplitude and broadcast strength. Remember, we spoke of emotions as the energy or fuel behind thoughts. And repeated thoughts create stable, persistent patterns like grooves worn into reality. And stage 3, CU organization and instruction. Now we're getting even more technical, but it's also fascinating. Beliefs function as organizing instructions for consciousness units. So this is the importance of knowing your own beliefs. That can't be stressed enough. When you hold a belief, you're literally commanding CUs on how to structure themselves. And here's the process. Your belief generates a specific electromagnetic template. This template attracts and organizes compatible CUs. Next, the CUs respond to the emotional intensity. Stronger emotion equates to faster, more complete organization. In other words, the stronger the emotion behind the belief or desire, the faster the outward manifestation. So the organized CUs begin the transformation process into physical matter or events. That is wild. You can think of it this way. Your beliefs are the architectural blueprint. Your emotions are the construction crew's energy and motivation. And CUs are the building materials that shape themselves according to the blueprint. So this is the explanation behind be careful what you wish for, you just might get it. So Seth's teachings were radical in the 1960s, but are increasingly supported by mainstream consciousness research developments. Before we close, I want to leave you with a simple but powerful exercise, one you can begin immediately. Seth emphasized that transformation doesn't begin by changing the outer world. It begins by becoming aware of the inner patterns that are already creating it. So for the next 24 hours, simply observe. Choose one recurring situation in your life, perhaps around finances, relationships, health, or work. Notice your automatic reactions when that subject arises, and ask yourself, what am I consistently thinking here? What emotion accompanies those thoughts? And most importantly, what belief might be generating both? For example, if you repeatedly think, nothing ever works out for me, or some variation of that thought, that has you feel discouraged or anxious. The underlying belief may be, life is difficult, or perhaps I am unsupported. This isn't about judgment, so be gentle with yourself. Forgive the thought. It's about discovery. And this is important because once a belief becomes conscious, it can be changed. And once we're here, living behind the veil, how much power do we actually have? Are we simply acting out a predetermined script, or are we creating our reality moment by moment, thought by thought, belief by belief? The answers may surprise you, and they'll set the stage for everything that follows. In episode 4, we'll continue with Seth's explanation of how your beliefs, thoughts manifest your outer world. We'll also explore one of Seth's most powerful concepts, essentially, where your power lies. Hint, in the present moment. This podcast combines human insight, research, and creativity with the assistance of artificial intelligence tools used during the writing and production process. As you move through your day, remember, life isn't happening to you. It's unfolding from within you. Notice what you're creating with your beliefs, and gently choose your thoughts again, if you wish. This is the Inner Realms, Lifting the Veil. I'm Armand Martin.